Hey, welcome back. You're watching Liquid Lunch on Newsmax TV. I'm John Tobacco. We are in the Question Tequila Studios in downtown Manhattan. And yes, my mom is tuned in. And yes, Mom, I made it to Broadway. We're at the downtown studios of Newsmax, and it's Woman Wednesday. And we bring on the real people who can do real talk. And when it comes to politics, we bring on some of the greatest women ever, including Sarah Ballou, who's with us today. Jen Morrow joins me again, filling in for Frankie Boy. And we got two Republican ladies on the show, which is nice. It might be a first. I'm going to ring the bell. I don't know if we ever had two Republican women on at the same time. Frank always, he has to be Mr. Objective guy and get one Republican, one Democrat, but that's good for the show, too. So, Sarah, you worked for Assemblywoman Malliotakis for some time, and she's certainly, for women, she's something to look up to because it's hard to get. Back then, it was hard to get elected as a woman, or harder than men, right? And Jen knows about this. Jen's mom, Letitia, knows about this, or women in politics. But do you think there's a wave going across, like, not only politics, but across, like, America of women having increased opportunities for equality? I know there's still work to do, but I'm saying.
Absolutely. I think there's a huge need for it, for more, especially Republican women, to get engaged in politics. I think we're definitely seeing a surge of women getting engaged. I think a lot of that has to do partly with the national narrative trying to recruit those women. Groups like EPAC from Representative Elise Stefanik, Carol Miller, Winning for Women, all these Republican groups that are really actively trying to recruit Republican women. And on top of that, after all the upset losses amongst Republicans in 2018, it just created new opportunities because all these guys who may have died in their seats are now open. And so it's giving Republican women the opportunity to now seize on that.
Jen, what are you thinking about running for?
I was thinking about running for city council.
All right, let's break some news here.
There you go. Get it out. Take notes. I want to run for city
Drum
council,
roll.
but it's a Democratic district.
All right, well,
Big time.
I know right here in the New York City Council, I believe Deborah Rose's seat is up for grabs because she's term limited out. I know Deborah for a long time. I helped her in a couple of her campaigns. She was always a great community activist, but everyone loves themselves a little change too. So maybe that's the time when a Republican can win.
It's the truth,
right? When the incumbent is term limited out of office. It's one of the great things about referendum in New York, and referendum really caused the term limits. And now it's not good for Debbie Rose, but I'm sure she's going to find some other wonderful thing to do for the community. But that seat comes open because to move into a lot of higher places. Jen, you're in the business world. Is there more opportunities for women there too? Or there's more women like you encounter on the other side?
I mean, especially in aesthetics, there are. Believe it or not, when you come across the male, it's like, guys working in the industry selling pharmaceuticals for aesthetics and estheticians. Okay. But, I was in construction for 21 years, so I'm used to being...
Wow. Holy mackerel.
I know, that's all my age. I'm 22.
And we had on Jonathan Bell, who's from the Bell Law Group, and he's a great, employment attorney and workplace, and stuff. And he was telling us about this new law in New York City where if you have one employee in your company, you have to have that person and yourself watch a 45-minute video on sexual harassment and what pronouns to use and all preferred pronouns and all of this other stuff. And I'm like, this is really getting scary now that, I can't even imagine what was happening 20 years ago
forget it. I'd
on
own
the
all those
construction
companies right
space.
now. If I felt like complaining, I'd be driving up here in a Lamborghini.
So you're advocating also for Winning for Women, right? And this is a political action group that you work with. Tell us a little bit about the mission for Winning for Women to get Republican women into the system and into office.
So the most important thing about recruiting women to run for office within the Republican Party is not just recruiting women, but recruiting the right women. The Republican Party kind of gets a rep of being anti-woman, being anti-feminist, anti-female, and it's just not the case. History shows that Republicans are just as much likely to elect a female Republican as a male Republican. Where women get hurt typically is in a primary or just not wanting to run in the first place. So what's really important when they're recruiting women is to recruit women who fit the district and are conservative enough to actually pull off a primary.
I would think the primaries tend to get even more of a slugfest because it's like an intra-squad game and everybody knows everybody's dirty little secrets. And I would imagine that, you know, previously in history, women would be less inclined to want to have any of their dirty laundry dragged into the public square. But, you know, it seems like now that anything is fair game in politics. It's terrible. The tone of discourse. We have Vito Fossella on yesterday. Okay, and we were talking about how it's like so divided now. And, you know, we were making the analogy like when we were kids, you played any sport, no matter what, win, lose, draw, coach tells you line up, shake hands with the other team. You hated them during the game, but you respect them whether you won or lost, and you come back to fight another day. Democrats don't even want to shake hands after losing the game. They want to relitigate the game, like now. You know, they were talking about we elected so many women and equality, and really all they're after, they're not passing any legislation, they're just going after the president.
Exactly. And you know, the Republican Party, no one wants identity politics shoved down their throats. And I think that's the most important distinction to make with recruiting women. And like you're saying with this impeachment stuff, you know, right now the House is in total gridlock. And that's why it's important to recruit women, because historically, when more women are in the legislature, they actually reduce bipartisan gridlock. So having that helps pass more legislation in general, not just, you know, quote unquote female issues.
Wonderful. Sarah Ballou, I want to thank you very much. And Jen, thank you for staying with me, filling in for Frank. We're going to take a quick break. We did a lot of crypto today. We did a lot of business today. We had an unbelievable bunch of guests today talking about a range of topics. I personally have some big news to tell you about one of our sponsors and all the great things that are happening with InvestView. And we're going to have their CEO, Annette Rayner, on for this Woman Wednesday edition of Liquid Lunch. Back right after this.